Hello, Alexander.
How are you?
Fine. How you doing? Thank you for your time. And let's talk about the Norman. You're having here a very special thing with the Vikings, and it's interesting for me because I'm Peruvian. So for me, like when I think about the past of my country or my territory, whatever, I think about the Incas. The Mexican people probably think the same about the Mayans and the Aztecs. So for you, this is like you're from Sweden, so there's a connection, a personal connection with them. But at the same time, Vikings have been shown in a lot of movies, in TV and everything. So you were trying to show something different. You were trying to show something different in the movie, and then you knew that you have a responsibility. How was that process for you?
Yeah, it was imperative to get it right. Like you said, it's in my DNA. I was born and raised in Sweden, so it's surrounded by Viking culture and the legacy, the memories, the walking around. There's thousands of rune stones still standing in Sweden, so you're definitely reminded of the Viking age when you're walking around in Sweden. So it's the goal was to make something that that was big and entertaining, but that stayed true to the old Viking Icelandic sagas, the Edda poetry, the capture the essence and of the people and of that time, and to not make or take too much creative freedom,
Yeah.
but actually try to make a movie that for the audience, so the audience would feel transported back in time to Northern Europe 1,000 years ago, and that people would see the world through the eyes of Amleth, a Viking 1,000 years ago. What would that be like? What would that look like? What not only the actual world, but also the supernatural world and the spiritual world, which was so integral to the story and to the old sagas. So it was important to try to capture that.
Yeah, in those terms, the characters is interesting because, as you say, well, he's kind of a spiritual guy. I mean, the Vikings were like very spiritual in those terms. At the same time, he's very strong, so you have to go through like a very complicated like training. But how was for you to just like combine that, like the physicality of the character, and then the mental part of him? Because but spiritual can be good or bad. He can act like an animal sometimes, literally because of his beliefs. But
Yeah.
he can be, I don't know if tender, but sometimes he can be sensitive.
His berserker name is Björnulfur, which means bear wolf. So
Yeah.
I in terms of the preparation, the physical preparation was just I tried to get a bit bigger and put on a bit more weight to look a little more bear-like than I do normally. In order to understand Amleth, so that preparation was, again, just reading books about the Viking culture and, again, the mindset, because it was important to kind of get into understanding his what drives him, to give him agency. It's a revenge story. He believes in fate. So who are the Norns of fate that are controlling him or weaving the tapestry of his life, and what's his relationship to them? That was important to understand. It was also important to hold on to the fact that he's an orphan. He was abandoned when he was 10 years old, and he's been all alone ever since. He's got this band of brothers, the other berserkers, but I wanted to. It's important that you can see that in moments, that little boy is still there deep inside of him, someone who's longing to connect and reconnect with his family, find his mother, and so that it would be more than just an imposing berserker. That's not what drives him. It's the sense of the dream of being reconnected with his mother.
And how difficult was to develop all you mentioned, everything that you mentioned, while you were like shooting in such a peculiar way, you know? This is not like a typical Hollywood movie. It's just very long takes, one camera. That was probably exhausting too, and just that it gives the movie something very special. That's
what I was hoping it would, because shooting it this way is very unusual. The fact that it was shot on film, one camera, and with no coverage. It was just almost all the scenes are just one long continuous shot. That's not how you make movies these days, if ever, like especially not big action movies. You always have coverage. But so it was quite an undertaking and quite a challenge to get that, to just make it work. The complexity of those big fight scenes made it very, very difficult. But we knew that going into it. We knew that it was going to be tough. And we also knew that once we're up on that mountain starting to shoot, we can't figure it out on the day. We have to meticulously plan it so that once we're up there in the mud, we already know exactly how to shoot it and what the relationship between myself and the camera would be and how we would move together to find that dance basically through those sequences. So you just have to do your homework. And it was a lot of rehearsing, planning, doing it together with the stunt team and also with the camera department. So we would, like, again, when we got to set to shoot, we already knew how to shoot it and what pace and intensity to bring to those sequences.
Sure. So we have to talk about like Anya Taylor-Joy. We Latinos, we consider her like, okay, she's Latina, but she's also part British, part Scottish, part Spaniard, and I'm pretty sure she's able to play any kind of character, right? She's great. How was working with her?
It was phenomenal. She is so talented and one of the hardest working people I've ever worked with, and is so incredibly committed to the project and to working with Rob. And it was a real treat to see, and having someone with that level of commitment, it meant a lot to people around her on set, because that gave people the energy to work even harder. And we would have big fight scenes where Anya's character would be deep in the background, maybe for a full week, but she wouldn't always give 100% and always be there and always be supportive. Even if she for several days wasn't on camera, she would be there and helping out, and just an incredible team player. And again, that commitment meant a lot to everyone around her.
So what are you expecting from the audience? Because this is like an art film. It's also a natural movie. It's like an epic story. It's very intense and violent, but also like sensitive sometimes. I say, what would you like people to take from the movie, and what do you think they will take? Last one.
I don't have any expectations, or I also don't want people to watch the movie with my annoying voice in their heads, hearing like me saying like, remember this, or take away this, or feel this. I think it's always the more immersive experience going to the movies. If you don't know too much about, and especially if it's not didactic, if the filmmaker or the actors in the movie aren't haven't told you how to experience it or what to experience. However, I do really hope that people go see it on a big screen. It is a very visual experience.
Absolutely.
I'm all for watching stuff on your iPad or a phone, but this is, again, it's a visual spectacle. So I think it's hopefully people won't regret watching it on a big screen.
Definitely. Thank you very much, Alexander. Thank you for your movies. Thank you for this one, and keep on going.
Gracias, gracias.
Que tengas un feliz día.
Buen día, buen día.
Hasta luego, bye.